and blessings, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Avalon Cameron, and today's video is going to focus on tarot spreads versus freeform reading. Now, in the past, I have spoken a lot about the difference between tarot spreads and freeform readings and how I personally prefer freeform readings. And I get a lot of questions sent to me through email and through social media asking me how to help people transition into freeform reading and what is the difference between spreads and freeform reading and what are the benefits between spreads or freeform reading and so on and so forth. So basically the topics that I'm going to discuss today have quite a lot of questions, and so I hope to answer most people's questions within this video. And if I have happened to have left something out, please do leave it in the comment section below and I can do a follow-up video to address these questions. Let's start with the pros of tarot spread. All right, to get the absolute most out of this video, I have got my notes here, and so I'm going to be reading from notes as something different. So we're going to go with tarot spreads first and pro number one. All right, so I have here structured guidance. Tarot spreads provide a clear, organized framework for readings. Each card position has a predefined meaning, guiding the reader through specific areas such as past, present, future, challenges and advice. This makes it easier for beginners to follow a roadmap during the course of their reading, which is absolutely 100% truth right there. It can be very, very, very easy for a beginner to start with spreads, and that is potentially why I like to recommend all the beginners to start with good, decent, traditional, and sometimes short and simple tarot spreads, because it really does provide the training wheels for a reading. Pro number two is a little bit more ambiguous, but still a solid one. It's focus and specificity, okay? So in my notes here I have, using a spread helps narrow down the focus of a reading. For example, spreads like the Celtic Cross or 3-card spreads provide focused insight into specific questions, making them ideal for clients who need detailed guidance on particular areas like love, career, personal growth, etc. So we can really gear and align our spread towards a particular client's question and the overall theme of their question. So there is a lot to be said about being able to align like that, because there are people that are 100% certain of their question and it is anchored down into one element, and it could be, let's say, love and relationships. There could be multiple questions, but it all exists in the sphere of relationships or love, and therefore a tarot spread can help to really provide some nuanced information and advice for a person looking for that type of tarot spread and that type of advice. I feel like I've spoken around in circles, I'm not sure. Pro number three, I don't know why I did two, but I meant three. It's consistency. Spreads ensure consistency across readings. Each time a spread is used, the layout and card positions remain the same, allowing for comparisons between readings, right? This can be useful for clients looking to track progress or assess change over time. So let's say Fred comes to me and gets the Celtic Cross reading, and the Celtic Cross has its fixed positions. And I do that reading, and in 6 months' time, Fred comes to me again on the same subject, but just to check his progress, I would use the same spread and see how that differed from the first reading to track his progress. And you just can't, that's magic in and of itself, right? That is just such good magic in and of itself. So being able to track that progress over time, especially if the person getting the reading isn't inclined to journal or isn't the type of person that's going to take notes and really double down on that. They're just like, all right, I'll be back in 6 months' time and I'll follow those instructions and see how I go. You know, it's really great to be able to provide your regular clients with that kind of, magic. Number four is particularly one for the beginners, because number four is all about relieving pressure, because spreads do relieve pressure on the reader. The structure of a spread can relieve the pressure on a reader as the card positions provide prompts. Each card position is in essence a prompt, right? There's less need to interpret every card in a vacuum since each position offers clues for interpreting the cards in context. So it's a great framework to use. It's training wheels. It's beginner friendly. It's perfect for the beginner because you have those prompts in place and you don't have to worry about all the detailed positions so much so as you do in a freeform reading, and I'll explain that when I get to freeform readings. Number 5 is builds confidence for beginners, because spreads are just that. We've just gone over this, right? The set framework for spreads and the prompts that accompany each spread and card position therein, right, is perfect for the novice, for the absolute beginner. It really helps to build up a bit of confidence. Now, for novice tarot readers, spreads are essential tools to help build confidence. They eliminate the uncertainty that can come from a freeform reading, offering a reliable foundation to work from while learning card meanings and developing interpretive skills. Now, spreads are the number one ways to really narrow down your interpretive skills. So spreads help you to practice that ability and helps you to cultivate your interpretive skills. And so for that reason alone, they are perfect for the beginner. And I honestly would not recommend any beginner just skip spreads to get to freeform. I know that there are people out there that have just jumped into intuitive freeform style readings. And I do genuinely believe that they are missing a vital component to the foundation of their tarot practice, but that is just my opinion. Now we've reached the cons of tarot spreads, right? So my number one con is that it can feel restrictive. Spreads can feel restrictive, and that is definitely my own opinion right there. Let me get into this one. For more intuitive readers, like myself, spreads can feel restrictive, limiting the organic flow of the reading. The predetermined structure can stifle the reader's ability to interpret the cards freely or explore unexpected avenues that arise during a reading. And that is definitely something that I find affects me. Because I have dyslexia, right? I have ADHD. I see patterns, weird, unusual patterns within my tarot spreads, and as a freeform reader I can chase down those patterns and offer some really nuanced styles of reading because I see things that other people just can't, because my brain is wired in a very weird way. It doesn't make me amazing, it just makes it a different experience. Do you know what I mean? And so if I have a fixed structure to work with, I don't get to play around with that skill set, that brain weirdness. And con number 2 is spreads are less adaptable to complex questions. Now, this I firmly believe, especially if a client comes to you with a multi-layered question. Yes, it's one single question. This is why a lot of readers, by the way, they're like, okay, the tarot reading is this much. This is the style of reading, one question per reading. They're very, very specific about that because some people can come with a barrage of questions, actually. I recently had a client come through for a relationship reading and she had 6 questions and they all pivoted around the same theme. And so in order for me to really nail that, I can as a freeform reader, but if I was using spreads, there is no way that I could achieve what I can with my freeform readings. Now let's get into my notes here because I'm more articulate when I write. Some questions or issues may not fit neatly into a specific spread. Fair enough. For example, a complex, multifaceted life situation might require a more fluid approach to fully understand the nuances, which spreads may struggle to accommodate. See? Much more eloquent. Con number 3. Con number 3. Is that where we're at? Risk over reliance on structure. This is definitely a thing that I have seen more intermediate tarot readers struggle with. So readers may become overly reliant on spreads, focusing too much on the positions and not enough on their intuition or the card interactions. Very important. Your intuition, the card interactions, they are paramount in a reading, and too much reliance on spreads can actually hinder your ability to really dig deep in those avenues. Okay, this can lead to rigid interpretations that miss the deeper, more fluid messages from the cards, and I 100% believe that. Yes, it's a thing. Con number 4 is limited customization. It's not that you can't customize a tarot spread, because you absolutely can. I'm sure many of us have already heard the trimmed down version of the Celtic Cross. It's an oldie but a goldie now. So you can customize spreads, but it's not something that we often do. Not for every spread at least, because it's very limiting. So although there are thousands of spreads available, finding the perfect one to match every situation can be a challenge. Readers might feel constrained by the available spreads or need to constantly create new ones to meet unique client needs, right? So limited customization, that's what you get. Con number 5, not ideal for abstract or spiritual questions. Now, if you've been a tarot reader for a minute, you will know that there are times that people come through to you, clients come through to you with the most bizarre, abstract spiritual questions. I get a lot of people for spirituality questions, a lot of clients for witchcraft, spirituality, religious kinds of readings, and I don't mind that at all, but I would struggle hard to lay that information out in the context of a spread. That's just me though. That could be just demonstrative of my absent spread skill set. Who knows? There are some people out there that are wicked with spreads, but I still feel that they can be restrictive. Nevertheless, spreads work best for concrete situations, or situational queries, I should say. More abstract or spiritual inquiries may require a more fluid approach to allow the reader to channel broader energies without limits of specific card positions. So, see what I mean? When I write, I'm so much more eloquent. Now, one more thing that I would say to that is that when it comes to spreads, it's down to the individual, right? Let's now get into who would prefer tarot spreads. So I'm just playing around here, just thinking outside the box, right? So I believe that a beginner tarot reader would absolutely appreciate a tarot spread for reasons I've already mentioned. Analytical thinkers that prefer structure, they too would prefer spreads, either performing a spread or receiving a reading done in the context of a spread, right? And readers who work professionally. So I know a lot of professional readers who are primarily spread readers. In fact, I don't actually know that many freeform readers. There's something to that. All right, now that we have covered tarot spreads, we're going to move into my favorite, which is freeform readings, where I find myself thriving. Pro for freeform reading, pro number 1, is greater flexibility. Again, I'm looking at my notes here. So freeform reading allows readers to follow their intuition and pull cards as they feel called without adhering to a predetermined structure. The flexibility often leads to more dynamic and spontaneous insights. This is definitely true for me. I am not restricted in any way by the amount of cards that I pull. I can pull sections of cards, and I have done this. So if, let's say, I have a client who has chosen a reading and they have 3 questions tucked away in their readings, then I'm going to create 3 readings on my table, and I'm just gonna have so much freaking fun with it. It's so free flow. It's so freeing. I think it's my ADHD that really that feels quite controlled by a spread. Like, I appreciate a spread, I create spreads, and I appreciate them. But at the end of the day, I just love to just throw it all away and lay out my cards and look at them and build my story and see the bigger picture and find my patterns. Like for me as a freeform reader, that is where the magic exists. Pro number 2 is enhanced intuitive flow. There is absolutely no doubt about it. When you read freeform, the intuition just flourishes. Now it helps to work on your intuition prior to reading freeform style. It's not that reading freeform will enhance your intuitive faculties. You need to have already given some kind of voice to your intuitive faculties. But once you have, your intuition can just, it can dance throughout a freeform reading, and it does so with this sense of incredible fluidity. It's like, I really want to give you an analogy here that works. It's like a symphony. Everything moving and the conductor being the reader. It's the vibe, okay? I can't emphasize this enough. I'm going to read my notes because I'm failing at talking today. Without the constraints of a spread, readers can connect more deeply with their intuition and the energy of the querent or the sitter or the client, right? This allows the reader to interpret the cards in a more fluid, energetic, and sometimes more meaningful way. See? Better at writing. This is a good one. Freeform readings are excellent at adaptable, So pro number 3, adaptable to complex or open-ended questions. Absolutely. Let me continue. Freeform readings are perfect for complicated, evolving situations or open-ended spiritual inquiries. The reader can draw as many or as few cards as needed to explore different aspects of the questions, adjusting the flow of the reading in real time. So that is malleability. Like, you can't pay for that kind of malleability. I need that malleability in my readings. My brain requires it. I get bored very quickly, and so I need to keep things as exciting as possible. Pro number 4 is creative exploration, right? So here's what I've got. Freeform reading gives the reader creative freedom to explore the cards in unusual and unexpected ways. If a certain card pulls the reader in a new direction, they can follow that path, potentially uncovering deeper layers of meaning. Absolutely. This is about pattern recognition in a reading. I will lay out my cards, however many I feel I need to lay out at that time, in whatever pattern I feel like I need to lay out at that time. The pattern is actually not that important, really. And what happens is I will look at how the picture is emerging, and there will always be 1 to 2 cards, sometimes even 3, that are singing the loudest. I can see that they're crux cards, that they hold the bones of part of that story, and a lot comes back or relates back to that particular card. So that's my vibe. Pro number 5 is better suited for personal readings. So when reading for oneself, freeform readings allow for more fluid interpretations, encouraging deeper self-reflection and connection to the cards. The lack of structure lets the reader freely engage with the deck without feeling boxed into specific card positions. Now, this isn't as important, but it definitely is a pro. I personally, when I'm reading for myself, I will pull anywhere between 3 and maybe 9 cards. I don't tend to make my readings very big unless I'm doing my own magical New Year ahead reading, which I always do at the end of the year. I will typically just pull a small number of cards, but I always find that there is no rhyme or reason with how I pull them, and sometimes I will cross cards, sometimes I will put one card over the other, and there is just so much nuance in that. There's so much room to move and to read. Card positions in freeform readings mean everything. What sits above, what sits below, what crosses, what is beside, what is before, it all, directionality means everything to me during a freeform reading, and it adds so much nuance. Pro number 6 is engages a broader perspective. Let's read here. Freeform readings engage, or encourage, I should say, the reader to see the bigger picture and explore various angles of a situation without the constraint of limited positions. This often leads to holistic insights that incorporate multiple aspects of a person's life or query. So there is just more room to move within the context of a freeform reading. That is my opinion, of course. There's some ride or die spread readers out there that will disagree with me, and that's okay. This is just my own personal opinion, but it does engage a broader perspective. I genuinely believe that. For the simple fact that you don't know which card is going to hook your attention and how the story is going to develop. Like every time you look at a card in the context of a spread, it's like a story unravels from one card, and it can take you in any direction, and that is precious. Now we get to the cons of freeform reading. So let's get into it. Con number 1, can be overwhelming for beginners, of course. I would never recommend freeform reading to a beginner, first and foremost. Let me just say that if I haven't said it already. Here's why. Without a structure, to rely on, freeform readings can overwhelm beginner readers. They might feel unsure of where to start, how many cards to pull, or how to tie everything together into a coherent narrative. And that is the biggest challenge for freeform readers, is how to tie everything together, how to pull, like the oracular phrase from a massive reading. It takes practice and experience to get to that point, and you'll get that practice and that experience with spreads. Spreads will help you exponentially. Believe me when I say this, okay? Spreads will help you. Without spreads, I don't think I would be as good a freeform reader as I am. And I think I'm a pretty damn good freeform reader. Thank you to spreads for that skill set. Okay, con number 2 is risk of ambiguity. This is a big one. The lack of specific card positions can lead to ambiguity in interpretations. Without a guiding framework, the reader might struggle to assign concrete meanings to the cards, potentially leading to a confusion or vagueness in the reading. Again, this is something that would only really affect beginners shifting into freeform reading before they are ready, okay? More experienced readers don't suffer from ambiguity. They can, during the transition of spreads to freeform, there is a little bit of a learning curve, and ambiguity within a reading is part of that learning curve, which is why practice on your friends and family if you are an intermediate tarot reader and you're considering switching from spreads to freeform, because it will help you, okay? It really will help you. Practice on fake people. Write up a little fake person profile and practice on that and see how you go with that. It's valuable practice time. Con number 3 is it's time consuming. Freeform readings can take an inordinate amount of time. I have short readings on my website. I did one today, $33, and I was there for 50 minutes. That's technically a half an hour reading, but because I read freeform, I always go over time, always. And I don't mind it. I actually don't mind it. I like to spend time with my clients anyway, and I like to be able to provide them with the stuff, right? Especially if there is a lot to say within the context of that reading. I'm not going to rush it. and I'm not going to cut my exploration of the cards, exploration, not expiration, but exploration of the cards. I'm not going to cut that short for any reason. This one is a tricky one, right? So number 4, con number 4 is lacks a consistent narrative. Now, hear me out. For clients seeking straightforward answers, freeform readings might lack the clear narrative progression of a spread without predetermined positions. It can be harder to piece together a cohesive story or deliver a direct message. This again is something that a beginner would struggle with, or a person transitioning from spreads to freeform readings. Well-established, well-practiced, experienced freeform readers, we don't struggle with this at all. Not at all. So it takes time to build up that kind of freeform muscle, I guess. And, you know, practice makes perfect. So con number 5 actually comes from a friend of mine. So subject to reader bias. Now, this is an interesting one that I had never before considered, right? In a freeform setting, the reader's interpretations might lean more heavily on personal biases or assumptions without the guiding positions of a spread. It's easier to get sidetracked or misinterpret the cards based on the reader's emotional state or preconceived notions. Now, yes, 100%. But when it comes to ethics, it's really important to separate yourself from your client and not project your shit onto your clients. And that is why I have very strict reading protocols. I don't read under the influence. I don't read if I'm overly stressed. I don't read if I'm overly fatigued. I don't read if I'm sick. I don't read if I'm feeling like I need to be medicated or I am medicated in some way. There are so many ways in which I stop myself from being able to sit there with my clients and, you know, potentially do the wrong thing. I'm very, very careful with that type of thing. I only sit here at my reader's table to read for my clients when I am feeling 100% present, clear of mind, and firm of will and okay of body. No headaches, no aches and pains, no sores, no need for a Panadol. Like, I have to be extra careful with that kind of thing, and I make sure that I am very, very careful about it. And I know other freeform readers that do something very similar to me. They're very honorable with the way that they approach their client readings. And I would like to consider myself to be very honorable with the way that I approach my client readings. I would rather wait to do a reading than do a reading before I'm ready, or if I'm not feeling great. If I'm suffering from some kind of a breakup, or I've just had a fight with my lover, or whatever it might be, I'm not in the right headspace to read. And so it's very, very important to have boundaries on yourself as a freeform reader. And con number 6 is it's difficult to track progress. It can be difficult to track progress. Since there's no structured format to follow, freeform readings are harder to replicate for comparison over time. Clients looking to track their development or revisit past readings can find the lack of consistency frustrating. This is definitely true. The one reading I have in my personal collection that I can track progress is my Magical New Year Ahead readings. They're extremely popular for the end of year, right? And it's basically the same amount of cards. It's January through to December. It's a 12-month reading. So it's not like that's technically a spread, but it's 12 cards at a minimum. But it's actually my biggest reading because I have opening cards, I have oracle cards, I have major arcana cards. It's massive. It's a massive freaking reading, okay? But it is a set number of cards. So it's probably more spread-like than I would even care to admit, and yet it's not, because at any point, if I feel like January requires some embellishment, I will pull as many cards on top of January as I like, maybe even from a separate deck, maybe even from a separate deck in an oracle deck, because why not? Now let's get down to who would prefer freeform readings. Me, number 1. Experienced readers, intuitive or empathic people, clients seeking open-ended questions, and creative or spiritual seekers. That is what I've got. And so, with all of that said and done, thank you to my notes, thank you to to form me for writing down those notes. Took me a minute to gather that information, but I managed to gather it. So thank you for being patient with me while I read off a screen. I don't typically do that, but I felt like in order for me to do this subject justice and to ensure that I captured every little tiny bit of information, I decided I would just read off the screen today just to help everyone out, okay? So with all of that said and done, my beautiful souls, I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I hope I've been able to give you something to think about. I would love to hear from you. Are you a spreads reader? Are you a freeform reader? What's your vibe? What are you hoping to achieve? Are you hoping to transition from spreads to freeform reading? If you are, let me know. And with all of that said and done, my beautiful souls, I'm wishing you so much love, luck, peace, and joy. Don't forget, if you are interested in a magical New Year ahead reading, now is the time to order it before the rush. I get very, very busy at the end of the year, and it is one of my most popular readings because it's a magical forecast from January through to December. And magical suggestions and little rituals and all sorts of insights. It's a big, big reading, and I'm going to cap it this year because I got too busy trying to do them last year. So I'm trying very hard to remain responsible this year. All right, take care, my loves. I'll chat to you again soon. Mwah. Bye.